welcome back to Friday Reads, where we help you find your next read. I'm Jill.
And I'm Julie, and this week we're talking about some of the best books from 2020. While there were a lot of great books this year, we each tried to narrow it down to just 5 for today's video.
Which was very hard. We are open for curbside pickup if you want to put one of these books on hold. You can do that at infosoup.org, or they might be available through some of our apps like the Hoopla or Overdrive or Libby. I've been hearing a lot of Hoopla is available to have a lot of the newer books. Okay.
Alrighty, so my first book that I did read, some of the books I've read, some I haven't, is The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. This book is about identical twin sisters after growing up together in a small southern black community and running away at age 16. It's not just the shape of their daily lives that's different as adults, it's everything. Their families, their communities, their racial identities. Many years later, one sister lives with her black daughter in the same southern town she once tried to escape. The other secretly passes for white, and her white husband knows nothing of her past. Still, even separated by so many miles and just as many lies, the fates of the twins remain intertwined. What will happen to the next generation when their own daughters' storylines intersect? So this book weaves together multiple strands and generations of this family, from the deep south to California, from the 1950s to the 1990s. She produced a story that is at once a riveting emotional family story and a brilliant exploration of American history. This book was a Good Morning America book club pick. I read it. I rated it 4 stars on Goodreads. So it was an easy pick of one of the best of 2020.
I like that one a lot too. That's a good one. So I'm going to start with my favorite book from 2020, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. This was my favorite book, but I didn't have good expectations for it. This is a prequel to the Hunger Games series, if you were a fan of the Hunger Games series. And it's the story of President Snow and how he became. And a lot of times with these things, when another book comes out a long time later for the series, I think it's like a money grab, but you know, and nobody likes President Snow, and why would anyone want to read about him? But, you know, this, like, blew me away when I read it, and I hope she does more. It's, like, absolutely wonderful. It's a coming-of-age story about Coriolanus Snow, which is very interesting, listening to him being called Coriolanus. He's a young boy coming up, and he falls in love, and he, like, is introduced to the Hunger Games, and yeah, I actually felt sorry for him at the end of the book, which is amazing. I never thought that would happen. And even like this crazy title that's so long and it's hard to remember, it all makes sense because there are ballads and songbirds and snakes in this, and it all ties together really, really, really beautifully. It's also a fun visit to the Hunger Games in the early years because like some things are really different than they are once we get to the Hunger Games that we all are familiar with. So that's kind of a fun thing too. So I could go on and on about this book, and I have. If you go to our YouTube channel, Aubrey and I go on for half an hour about why we love this book. So that could be fun to watch after you read it, and if you want to talk about it kind of thing. So yeah, if I had to pick one book, this would be it. Especially for Hunger Games fans.
Very cool. My second pick is The Glass Hotel, a novel by Emily St. John Mandel. It's from the award-winning author of Station 11, if you're familiar with any of her other work. This is a captivating novel of money, beauty, white-collar crime, ghosts, and moral compromise, in which a woman disappears from a container ship off the coast of Mauritania, and a massive Ponzi scheme implodes in New York, dragging countless fortunes with it. So the characters in this is Vincent is a bartender at a 5-star lodging on the northernmost tip of Vancouver Island. On the night she meets Jonathan Alcaides, a hooded figure scrawls a message on the lobby's glass wall. Why don't you swallow broken glass? High above Manhattan, a greater crime is committed. Alcaides is running an international Ponzi scheme, moving imaginary sums of money through clients' accounts. When the financial empire collapses, it obliterates countless fortunes and devastates lives. Vincent, who had been posing as Jonathan's wife, just walks away in the night when this is going on. Years later, a victim of fraud is hired to investigate a strange occurrence. A woman has seemingly vanished from the deck of a container ship between ports of call. I have not read this book. This landed on several of the best of 2020 lists that I looked at. It does include a few of the characters from her Station 11. If you're fans of Station 11, it's got Miranda, it's got Leon. So this is one of them that is going on my list of books to read for 2020.
You got a couple weeks left. So this, My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. This is another one of my favorites that I read. It actually went through the library. A lot of librarians read it around here because we were talking about it. This is a Lolita-like story that explores the psychological dynamics of a relationship between a naive teenage girl and her magnetic and manipulative teacher. Stephen King wrote a little excerpt in his book blurb that said it's a hard story to read and a harder one to put down, a well-constructed package of dynamite. And I completely agree with that. It's very dark and disturbing, but at the same time, it's like, wow, I can see how this happens, you know? It alternates between Vanessa's present and her past. My Dark Vanessa juxtaposes memory and trauma with the breathless excitement of a teenage girl discovering the power of her own body can wield. This thought-provoking debut novel, which I'm a fan of debut novels, brings up repercussions of a troubled adolescence and raises vital questions about agency, consent, complicity, and victimhood. So, My Dark Vanessa, if you're up for it.
That might be a little dark for me.
It's a little bit.
Oh, goodness. I remember everybody passing that one around, though.
Yes.
My third pick is Deacon King Kong by James McBride. Story in this one is in September 1969, a fumbling, cranky old church deacon known as Sportcoat shuffles into the courtyard of the Cause House's housing project in South Brooklyn, pulls a .38 from his pocket, and in front of everyone shoots the project's drug dealer in the ear. In Deacon King Kong, McBride brings to vivid life the people affected by the shooting. The victim, the residents who witnessed it, the white neighbors, the local cops assigned to investigate, the members of the Five Ends Baptist Church where Sportcoat was the deacon, the neighborhood's Italian mobsters, and Sportcoat himself. So the reasons for this desperate burst of violence and the consequences that spring from it lie at the heart of this book. As the story deepens further, it becomes clear that the lives of the characters, caught in the tumultuous swirl of 1960s New York, start to overlap in unexpected ways. So James McBride has written a novel every bit as involving as The Good Lord Bird and emotionally honest as The Color of Water, if you're familiar with some of his other works. Told with insight and humor, Deacon King Kong demonstrates that love and faith live in all of us. This is another one I have not read, but when I looked into the best books of the year, this one was added to my list also. Made a lot of lists.
I think my list of reading grows because we do this.
I know, me too.
So my next one is a funny one, in case you want something funny. Una Out of Order by Margarita Montemor. This is a funny and totally weird, which is something I like. It's New Year's Eve on 1982, and Una Lockhart has her whole life ahead of her. At the stroke of midnight, she will turn 19, and the year ahead promises to be one of consequence. Should she go to London to study economics, or remain at home in Brooklyn to pursue her passion for music and be with her boyfriend? As the countdown to the new year begins, Una faints and awakens 32 years into the future in her 51-year-old body. She's greeted by a friendly stranger in a beautiful house she's told is her own. Una learns that with each passing year, she will leap to another age at random, and so begins Una Out of Order. So this is a remarkably inventive novel that explores what it means to live fully in the moment, even if those moments are out of sequence. So, yeah, this is
That
on
sounds
my
like a
list.
fun one.
Yep, something fun and funny, and New Year's is on.
My fourth pick is for fans of Lisa Wingate. I have the Book of Lost Friends, which came out like midsummer, I think that one came out earlier this year. She brings to life stories from actual Lost Friends advertisements that appeared in Southern newspapers after the Civil War, as freed slaves desperately searched for loved ones who had been sold off. This is another one told in two time periods. Part of it takes place in Louisiana in 1875. In the tumultuous aftermath of Reconstruction, 3 young women set off as unwilling companions on a perilous quest. We've got Lavinia, the pampered heir to a now destitute plantation, Juno Jane, her illegitimate free-born Creole half-sister, and Hanny, Lavinia's former slave. So these 3 set out, and the journey is one of inheritance and financial desperation, but it's also one of trying to find out where long-lost family is. Then the other time period is Louisiana 1987. There's first-year teacher Benedetta Silva. She gets a subsidized job at a poor rural school, and it seems like the ticket to canceling her hefty student debt until she lands in a tiny, out-of-step Mississippi river town, Augustine, Louisiana. Everyone there seems suspicious of new ideas and new people, and she can scarcely comprehend the lives of her poverty-stricken students. But amid the gnarled oaks and the rundown plantation homes lies a century-old history of 3 young women, those 3 who made the journey, and a hidden book that could change everything. I read this book. I rated this one 4 stars. I think I liked her previous book, Before We Were Yours, and the nonfiction before and after that she wrote with Judy Christie, a little bit better than this one, but I did enjoy this book also.
Okay, so this is The Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow. This is a 2020 Goodreads Choice Award nominee for Best Fantasy. It's 1893. There's no such thing as witches. There used to be in the wild dark days before the burnings began, but now witching is nothing but tidy charms and nursery rhymes. If the modern woman wants any measure of power, she must find it at the ballot box. But when the Eastwood sisters, James Juniper, Agnes Amaranth, and Beatrice Belladonna, join the suffragists of New Salem, they begin to pursue the forgotten words and the ways that might turn a woman's movement into a witch's movement. Stalked by shadows and sickness, hunted by forces that will not suffer a witch to vote, and perhaps not even to live, the sisters will need to delve into the oldest magics, draw new alliances, and heal the bond between them if they want to survive. There's no such thing as witches, but there will be. This has been compared to the 10,000 Doors of January, and it's full of nursery rhymes and feminist power. So a little quote from it is, "It's a risk just to be a woman in my experience, no matter how healthy or hardworking she is." So
Oh my.
this looks kind of fun. It looks a little hefty, but
And my last pick for today is called A Burning by Megha Majumdar. This is also a debut novel. This one has 3 unforgettable characters who seek to rise to the middle class, to political power, to fame in the movies. And they find their lives entangled in the wake of a catastrophe in contemporary India. The 3 characters are Javan, a young Muslim girl from the slums who's determined to move up in life, who is accused of executing a terrorist attack on a train because of a careless comment she made on Facebook. P.T. Sir is an opportunistic gym teacher who hitches his aspirations to a right-wing political party and finds that his own ascent becomes linked to Javan's fall. And the 3rd character is Lovely, an irresistible outcast whose exuberant voice and dreams of glory fill the novel with warmth and hope and humor. And she has the alibi that can set Javan free, but it will cost her everything she holds dear. So this was described as an extraordinary debut novel. It was described as symphonic and riveting from its opening lines. It has the force of an epic while being so masterfully compressed. It's a pretty thin one. It can be read in a single sitting, is what some of the people said. She writes with dazzling assurance at a breakneck pace on complex themes. So again, didn't get a chance to read this one. This just came out in September, but this also got added to my list.
yeah, that looks good. It's got a sticker on the front. So this is a recommendation from one of our librarians who runs our book clubs. She said it was a good book for discussion in case you're looking for something like that. And if you like murder mysteries, it's 8 Perfect Murders by Peter Swanson. It's a psychological suspense with an homage to the thriller genre. Years ago, bookseller and mystery aficionado Malcolm Kershaw compiled a list of the genre's most unsolvable mysteries, those that are almost impossible to crack, which he titled 8 Perfect Murders. But no one is more surprised than Mal, now the owner of an Old Devil's bookshop in Boston, when an FBI agent comes knocking on his door on a snowy day in February. She's looking for information about a series of unsolved murders that look eerily similar to the killings on Mal's old list. The FBI agent isn't the only one interested in this bookseller, who spends almost every night at home reading. The killer is out there watching his every move, a diabolical threat who knows way too much about Mal's personal history, especially the secrets he's never told anyone, even his recently deceased wife. To protect himself, Mal begins looking into possible suspects and sees a killer in everyone around him. But Mal doesn't count on the investigation leaving a trail of death in its wake. Suddenly, a series of shocking twists leaves more victims dead, and the noose around Mal's neck grows so tight he may never escape. So, something you write coming back to haunt you. Go
There
figure.
you go. Well, that does it for our 10 best books that we've chosen for 2020. We thank you for watching. We hope this gave you some more ideas on what to read next.
And don't forget to like and share so other people can do it, and comment below on your favorite books that you read in 2020. We'd love to hear them.
We won't be here next week or the week after with the holidays, but we'll see you in the new year. So,
Bye.
bye.